In the early years of the 20th century, the Atlantic Ocean was the great highway of the world. Rival shipping companies fought fiercely to attract wealthy travelers and immigrants alike. Among them, the White Star Line sought not just speed, but grandeur. Their answer was a series of ships so massive, so luxurious, that they would redefine ocean travel forever. In 1908, construction began in Belfast on what would become the largest passenger ship the world had ever seen, the RMS Titanic. More than 14,000 workers labored for years, riveting steel plates, shaping her hull, and adorning her interior with the finest wood, glass, and upholstery money could buy. When launched, her size stunned onlookers. Over 200,000 people gathered to see her touch the water for the first time. To them, she was more than a ship, she was a symbol of modern power and progress. Titanic was a floating palace. Her dining rooms glittered with chandeliers, her cabins were lined with velvet and mahogany. Even her anchor weighed 15 tons. She was not built for speed, but for comfort, promising passengers a smooth, stable journey across the ocean. For the wealthy elite, she offered unmatched luxury. For immigrants seeking new lives in America, she promised safe passage. Above all, she carried an aura of invincibility. Many believed she was practically unsinkable. On April 10, 1912, Titanic left Southampton under the command of Captain Edward Smith, bound for New York City. She stopped first at Cherbourg, France, then at Queenstown, Ireland, before striking out into the open Atlantic. Warnings of icebergs were received, but such alerts were common in those waters and rarely caused alarm. The sea was calm, the night skies clear. Titanic pressed on. But the calm hid a lurking danger. Icebergs, carried south by the Labrador Current, drifted silently into Titanic's path. Other ships radioed warnings. The Mesaba sent a message about massive ice fields ahead. The Californian reported being blocked entirely by ice. But in Titanic's wireless room, operators Jack Phillips and Harold Bride were overwhelmed relaying private telegrams for first-class passengers. The warnings never reached the bridge. Near midnight on April 14, lookouts in the crow's nest spotted a shadow, an iceberg dead ahead. Bells rang, orders were shouted, the helm turned sharply. But at her speed and size, Titanic could not avoid disaster. At 11:40 p.m., her starboard side scraped against the iceberg. Rivets popped, steel plates bent, and water poured in at 400 tons per minute. 5 compartments were breached. The ship was doomed. Captain Smith summoned Thomas Andrews, Titanic's designer. After inspecting the damage, Andrews delivered the grim truth: the ship could not be saved. Within 2 hours, she would be gone. Lifeboats were uncovered, but there were too few, enough for barely half of those aboard. As the crew roused passengers, many refused to believe there was real danger. The ship felt steady, her lights still bright. Some laughed at the idea of abandoning her. But as the bow dipped lower, panic spread. Women and children first, the call went out. Lifeboats lowered half empty as confusion reigned. In the wireless room, Jack Phillips tapped out SOS after SOS, his hands freezing as seawater crept higher. He stayed at his post until the end, refusing to abandon hope. Nearby, the Californian lay only 32 kilometers away. Its officers saw distress rockets, but their captain, Stanley Lord, dismissed them as ambiguous. The crew watched in silence as Titanic's rockets faded into the night. Farther away, the Carpathia answered Titanic's call, steaming at full speed toward her. But she was hours too far. Titanic had less than 2. By 2 a.m., the stern rose high into the sky. Passengers clung to railings, prayed, or jumped into the sea. The ship groaned under immense stress. At 2:20 a.m., she split apart and disappeared beneath the waves. More than 1,500 souls were lost. For those in the water, survival was brief. The temperature hovered near freezing. Within minutes, muscles failed, voices went silent. Survivors in lifeboats recalled the haunting chorus of cries fading into the darkness. Within half an hour, only silence remained. At dawn, the Carpathia arrived. Lifeboats drifted among ice, carrying the lucky few who had escaped. They stared at the empty sea where Titanic had vanished. The great ship, once the pride of an age, now lay in pieces 2 miles below. Years later, scientists studied her remains. They found that the collision was not a direct blow, but a long scrape that peeled away rivets and opened seams. Titanic's builders had trusted traditional iron rivets in parts of the hull. When the iceberg tore alongside, those rivets failed one by one, leaving a wound nearly 300 feet long. Had the ship struck head-on, she might have survived. Fate chose otherwise. And fate had begun its work long before. The night was moonless, the sea flat as glass, making icebergs harder to spot. Atmospheric distortions may have blurred the horizon, hiding the danger until too late. The iceberg itself had broken free from Greenland nearly a year earlier, drifting thousands of miles before arriving at exactly the wrong place, at exactly the wrong time. In the end, Titanic was more than a ship. She was a mirror of human ambition, our belief that progress makes us invincible. She carried the dreams of the rich and the poor alike, only to leave tragedy in her wake. Families were torn apart, children left orphaned, entire lives swallowed in a single night. Today, the wreck lies silent on the ocean floor. But the story still speaks. The Titanic reminds us that nature humbles even the mightiest creations, and that behind every headline and statistic are human lives, hopes, and final moments that echo through time.